in this video we'll try to understand that why anonymous types are preferred over tuples. So what we'll do first is we'll take up a typical example, a typical scenario where tuples fits in, and we'll see that how in that scenario we can use tuples to make the code better, and then we'll talk about the drawbacks of tuples, and then we will improve this implementation by using anonymous methods, and then we will do the comparison. So what we'll first do is we'll take up a typical scenario where we can use tuples, and then we will improve that code by using anonymous types. So in order to understand anonymous types and tuples, let's go ahead and create a simple console application here. Anon and tuples, right, and I'm going to say this as console tuples. So let's go and create a simple console application, and we'll first try to see how to implement tuples, and we'll understand the drawbacks of tuples, and then we'll try to implement anonymous types. So let's go and create this console application. Let me press OK. Now let's try to understand in what scenarios are tuples and anonymous types applicable. Okay, now let's consider a simple scenario here. We have a very simple string here. This string, the first part of the string has the name of the person, the second part of the string is the middle name, the third part of the string is a surname, and finally we have the mobile number. Now what we would like to do is we would like to parse this data, and we would like to take this data into individual variables. So like probably we'll say, okay, str first name, then we have str middle name, and then we have str surname, right, and then we have phone number. I'll take this as numeric for now, phone number, right. So what we would like to really do is we would like to take this parse this data and push this data into these individual variables. So in order to fill these variables, let's go ahead and quickly create a very simple function here, static void parse data. Now the first input to this function is the str data. It is nothing but the data which we want to parse in different variables, and I'll create out variables out of this. In other words, these variables will help me to go and fill the variables over here, that is str first name, middle name, etc. Okay, so I'm going to say str first name comma out string str last name comma out string str surname, sorry, middle name, surname, and definitely the phone number. Okay, right. Now in order to parse this data, what you see over here, right, we're going to use the split function. So if you closely watch the data, you can see that it has been separated by spaces here. So what we'll do is we will use the split function, and the split function will actually go and create arrays of variables. It will go and create an array where it will go and push each of these data into individual elements. Okay, so let's go ahead and create a simple string array. Now we have 1 2 3 4. Okay, so that means arrays are 0 index, so we're going to create an array of 3 length. Okay, 0 1 2 3. Okay, so I'm going to say, okay, I want to create a array which is of 3 length, right, and this array will be filled by the split function. So I'm going to say here array data is equal to str data dot split, and as we said that there are spaces in between, so I'm going to put a space here, right. So now what will happen is this data what is passed to this function, it will actually go and fill into this array. So the array data of 0 will have the first name, the array data of 1 will have the middle name, and so on, right. Now let's go and push this individual elements into these variables, that is str first name, str middle name, etc. So you say this is str first name is equal to array data of 0, say str, sorry, middle name is equal to array data of 1, str surname is equal to array data of 2, and finally my phone number. So I convert dot to double, because arrays are of type string at this moment, so we need to actually do the convert function. We need to use the convert function. So I'm going to say array data of 3, right? And this function I'm going to invoke from here. So I'm going to say here, please parse data, pass this str to the function, and fill the first name, the middle name, and the surname and the phone numbers into this variable. Now, because we have defined this out, we defined the out keyword here. So what will happen is, anything we change on these variables will get affected outside to these variables. Okay, so whatever data we are filling over here will automatically get reflected, on the calling function. Okay, so I'm say str middle name, str surname and phone number, right? It's showing a red sign here. Why? Because these variables are actually referring to the out variable, so we need to also use the out keyword here. Say out. So out means that whatever changes are made on these variables will be affected to these variables over here, right? So the red line has gone off now. So I'm going to just say console.write line, right line. I'm going to say okay, first name first name. Just quickly I'll just display all this data here. So here, slow, Control V, Control V. So I'm going to say middle name. I know that many of the people will be wondering that what I'm doing here, but this is whatever code I'm writing, I'm trying to set a stage to explain that where exactly tuples are useful. Okay, so just have a bit of patience. So I'm going to say surname, okay, and there goes my phone number. Now we need to convert this to a string here, so number dot to string, and I'm going to do a console dot read line so that we can see what the output is. Let's build this very quickly. Build solution. Okay, build started. Nice. And let's do a control F5 here. Right. So you can see that there's our data displayed and everything is nice and good. We can see our first name, our middle name, and our surname all been fetched into individual variables here, and we are happy about it. Now the above code is nice, it works, it does its job properly, but the concern here is the code tidiness. In the current scenario, all variables are individual variables. So in case if you want to pass this data around, right, it would be really tedious, as these variables are individual pieces, and that would really make your code, how do you say it, more lengthy, and it will not be readable. And because of these individual variables, right, if you see this function, parse data function, it has a lot of out parameters here, again making your function more lengthy, and it is very very difficult to read and understand. Now if you really watch very closely, right, the solution here is that if we can club the first name, surname, and phone numbers, etc., into an object, and then use that object to pass the data anywhere, right, that would really bring down our code to a great extent. Okay, so in other words, if we can logically group these 4 properties into an object and then use that object anywhere we want, rather than using these individual pieces, it would make our code more readable. Now the next thing you tell me is that why don't you go and create a class which has these 4 properties. Now creating a class over here is overdoing things, because our requirement here is very simple. We just want to go and group this these variables into one logical unit. That's it. We don't really create a full-blown class and create objects and have properties, etc. We just want to logically go and club this 4 variables into one object and pass them wherever we want to and use them as one logical unit. And that's where exactly tuples helps us out. In other words, tuples are nothing but they are objects which helps us to logically group other kinds of objects inside it. So for example, here we would like to group the first name, middle name, surname, phone number into one tuple called as person information. Okay. Now as I said that tuples can helps you to logically group objects. So this this object can be of any type. So it's not necessary that you should have only what you call simple data types like string or integers or double, but you can have objects like arrays if you want. If you want, you can have objects which are your own custom type, etc. So let's go ahead and create a tuple called as person information, and let's see that how it will help us to minimize our code. So let's go and first start with the function here. So let's get rid of this individual variables from here, because we're going to create a tuple here. Now what we'll do is we'll say that this function will return a tuple. Now tuple at the end of the day is a class, you can see. So I can say, okay, I'm going to return a tuple which is going to have 3 strings and 1 double data type. Why 3 strings? Because the first one will represent the first name, the next one will represent the middle name, the last one will represent the surname, and the final one will represent my phone number. So I'm going to say, okay, this is going to have 3 strings here: first name, last name, and the surname, and the final one the phone number, right? And over here I'm going to say return tuple dot create. So I'm going to say, okay, create what you call a unified object, or I'll say a logical grouping object which has 3 strings and 1 double variable. Okay, I'm say double, right? And over here then now I'm going to give the values here. So the array of 0 will go here, so that represents my first name. Array of 1 represents my middle name. Array of 2 represents my surname, and the last one represents my phone number. So say Control V, array of 3, right, simple. So I'm going to say now that this function will return a tuple here, close this, and this tuple is having 3 strings and 1 double data type, right? So let me just do a Control S here and let me build this. Okay, the build will definitely fail. Why? Because we have yet not accommodated here how to receive this tuple here. Okay, so again I don't need now all these variables because we are returning a tuple here. So I'm going to say here where my data, or let's say my information. Okay, so Control S, right? So again we don't need to define now the out variables, all have gone off. Now if you say here, now that this returns a tuple and it comes into this var data type, now if you type here my information dot, you can see this item 1, item 2, item 3, item 4. So the item 1 actually represents your first name, the item 2 represents your middle name, the third one represents your surname, and the last one represents your phone number. So I'm going to say show me item 1 here, because that is my first name. I'm going to say my information dot item 2, that represents my surname. Say my information dot item 3, that represents my, oh, that's my surname, I'm sorry, and the final one represents my phone number, right? Now you can see that we have minimized a lot of code. The variables which were individual, we have actually clubbed them together now into this tuple, and this tuple which you see over here now is nothing but it's one logical unit which actually unifies your first name, last name, your surname and phone number into one logical object. Now as compared to creating a full-blown class, this is a better solution, at least for this scenario here. Why? Because here our intention was that we wanted to actually logically group these properties into one box or into one logical unit, right? So creating a tuple is much easier as compared to creating a full-blown class with set and get properties and then create an object. So it's more of a overkill over here, because we don't intend to create properties and validations, right? We just want object which logically groups the other objects, so that you can pass it around anywhere, you can access it very easily, and your code is much readable. Okay, now the next question you'll ask me is that what is the problem? Well, the problem is this. Now you can see over here, there is no way I can make out that this item 1 is a first name, the item 2 is a middle name, the surname is the third name, and etc. So clearly in terms of writing a maintainable code, this is not desirable, right? So tomorrow, if somebody is using a tuple, it's he has to actually remember saying, okay, item 1 means first name, item 2 must middle name, and etc. So that would really make your code very horrible, or it's a bad practice to have objects with just item 1, item 2, item 3, right? So if this can be replaced by meaningful names, that is first name, middle name, surname, and etc., that would be really great. And that's where tuples are problematic. You cannot really go and define what you call a property name to a tuple. Okay, the only way to go and access tuple data is by using this item 1, item 2, item 3, and then remembering that what item 1 is all about and remembering what item 2 is all about. Okay, and that is where we have something called as anonymous types. Anonymous types helps us to create types on the fly, the way we are doing for tuples, but it also helps you to define properties with good meaningful names. So let's try to improve this code by using anonymous types. So now let's see that how we can improve this by using anonymous types. So I'm going to delete this. Okay, before I delete this, let's first create the anonymous type here. So I'm going to say here return new, right? Okay, curly brackets. So I'm going to say, okay, first name is equal to array of 0, middle name is equal to array of 1, surname is equal to array of 2, and finally phone number is equal to this last one, right? Right. Delete this off. Now I'm going to say this is going to return an object here, right? Comma. Right. Now this thing is called as the anonymous type here. So we have created an anonymous type on the fly, which has first name, middle name, surname, and phone number properties. Okay, and this is now getting typecasted to object here because we cannot return an anonymous type object outside the function straightforward. We need to do a typecasting. So for that, for ensuring that our cast is proper, I'm going to use this function here, cast. So this takes an object and returns back a generic typecasted object. Okay, now over here I'm going to say, okay, where parse data, please go and cast yourself. So I'm going to say, okay, this should be static because static functions can only call static functions. So cast, right? So I'm going to say here, okay, cast. Now this parse data actually returns the object, so please cast it to a type which is of new. which is having first name, comma, middle name. Let me just take it over there, Control C, which is having first name, middle name, surname, and phone number equals 0. Let's make it more readable by proper indentation. The code is not readable at this moment. Yeah. Let's make code more readable. Right. Now if I do my information dot, now you can see that I have strong typed properties over here as compared to item 1, item 2, right? So I'm going to say okay, display me here the first name, say display me here the middle name, and display me here the surname, and finally display me here the phone number. Okay. Now see the phone number to ensure that it is typecasted, right? Okay, cool. So nice. I'm going to just go and build this solution here. Okay, everything compiled there, build one succeeded, nice. So let me just go and press Ctrl F5 here. Okay, that's it's working over there. You can see the first name, middle name, and surname, etc. Nice. So we saw that, you know, how when we created a tuple, the naming convention was not proper. It was like item 1, item 2, item 3, very difficult to maintain, very difficult to understand that what kind of data can be in item 1 and item 2, right? The time we created anonymous types, we saw that, you know, how it had a strong naming convention, and thus helping us you know, to write more readable and more better code. Now both tuples as well as anonymous types are useful you know, when you don't want to create a full-blown class. You know, for example, in this current situation where we wanted to just logically group the data into one section or into one grouping and then pass them wherever we want to, so that, you know, we can easily access all these individual elements into one unit. Okay. Now, you know, personally what I think is that I will never use tuples. You know, in case of in scenarios like this, you know, where I don't want to create a full-blown class, I just want logical grouping, I will use anonymous types as far as possible because it makes my code more readable. So I will avoid tuples as far as possible, and I will use anonymous types, you know, wherever necessary. Now, you know, I would, you know, from this video, you know, via this video, I would like to make a suggestion to the Microsoft team, especially to the framework team, that if they can go and if they can go and modify this whole tuple thing and create strong naming conventions, you know, like you have for anonymous types, then definitely, you know, tuples are very useful. Why? Because if you look at the anonymous types, we had to write a cast function, etc. So in case Microsoft makes an improvement for the tuples by giving them strong naming conventions, you know, so that we can understand which data goes where, then definitely I would use tuples. Or else, you know, for the current scenario while I've recorded this video, tuples doesn't make a readable code, so I would avoid tuples and I will use anonymous types wherever possible. And if not, and if I think that anonymous types is also overkill, then probably I would really go ahead and create a class by itself and use it, so that at least, you know, I don't have confusion. So at least from my thought personally, I will avoid tuples, you know, because it will make my code not readable. It will make my code more cryptic. Thank you very much. I hope that you enjoyed this video. I hope that you understand now that what exactly is tuple, what exactly is anonymous types, and why anonymous types are better in terms of tuple, and why should we avoid tuples. Thank you very much.